Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Allie.
I'm Nick, and it is not, in fact, April Fool's Day.
You might have thought it was.
Yeah, no, it's not. But there's another X-Men crossover on Spider-Man the Animated Series, and I guess that's just our thing now.
Yeah, it's our assignment.
When it, we're like field reporters. Hillary and Eric assign us to go and cover things. We're the senior Spider-Man correspondents. We're going to be talking about the Secret Wars crossover on Spider-Man the Animated Series. It consists of 3 episodes: Arrival, Gauntlet of the Red Skull, and Doom. Now, last time we were talking about Mutant Agenda, and that was your one and only experience with Spider-Man the Animated Series or X-Men the Animated Series.
Correct.
Okay. Since that time, have you gone any more into this Marvel animated universe?
I have actually watched more of X-Men the Animated Series.
Because of our last episode?
Because of our last episode.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So but you leaned more towards X-Men than Spider-Man, even though it was okay.
I mean, like, I feel like I'm more familiar with Spider-Man, and so I was like, I have more of a concept of what that's probably like.
Okay.
And then some of the X-Men characters, I was like, well, that's interesting, and I'm kind of intrigued by what that would do. I don't necessarily know exactly what that would be like, so that was where I went.
No, I loved both of these shows when they were on, but as Eric and Hillary just recently finished X-Men the Animated Series,
oh, man.
and I realized I'd never seen the ending before, so I'd fallen off at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great ending.
Oh, no.
And with Spider-Man the Animated Series, I got pretty close, but I've never seen these episodes before. And there's only 2 episodes after what we're covering today. And so I just watched those to kind of see it through. It's a very lackluster ending. So
is it a situation where like they didn't realize it was going to be the end?
I was looking into it a little bit, and it sounds like it's kind of lining up when the Tobey Maguire movie was happening. So it was like, we got to ditch this and like go in another direction. But this whole last season is just it's a weird way to end, because it's a lot of crossovers. It's a lot of these sort of like whatever's going on with Madam Web and everything. And it's so far removed from like Peter Parker at the Daily Bugle and, Mary Jane and the Rhino.
Yeah, I feel like this was definitely a weird set to be like the next to last
closing
kind of
it
thing.
out. Yeah, it was. It was. These episodes originally aired November 7th through November 21st in 1997. So after X-Men the Animated Series ends its run. So this is kind of like we see Storm here, and this is kind of the last word on X-Men the Animated Series, at least in animated form, until we get to X-Men 97, which at our time of recording is happening right now all around us. These episodes were directed by Bob Richardson, written by John Semter, Karen Milovich, Virginia Roth, Ernie Altbacker, and Mark Hoffmeyer. The title comes from the classic comic crossover Secret Wars, which was a 12-issue series that was... I don't know that you could really call this an adaptation of that. It's a very, very loose adaptation. You have the Beyonder, you have heroes from, across the Marvel Universe pulled into one place for a secret war. But the most iconic thing about Secret Wars is that Spider-Man gets the black suit, the symbiote suit. And the animated series has already sort of dealt with that. But I think it's weird to do a Spider-Man episode about Secret Wars and not have the black suit come into play at all.
That's fair. But I do feel like once you've done the black suit, like you've done the black suit.
But there's like no nod to it or anything. Like there's no... I don't know. That
is a little weird.
That iconic cover of Spider-Man sort of like, what is this black suit with Secret Wars? I feel like that's the thing that people think of. So...
Well, I have to admit that I find the whole black suit storyline a little bit tedious.
Oh.
So I'm just as glad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Hillary went down a deep Venom rabbit hole, so don't let her hear you saying that.
I think it's just that, like, of the Spider-Man stuff I've encountered, a fair amount of it has been like, oh, the black suit, he's acting weird. We don't know why. And after you've seen it a couple times, it's like, all right, we all know why he's acting weird. Can we get to the part where we fix the problem?
Impatience.
Yeah, that is my problem.
All right, let's talk cast. So we have Christopher Daniel Barnes here as Spider-Man. I still like his Spider-Man performance. It's earnest. It's very earnest. We didn't have quite as many of these, like, nobody loves me kind of asides.
He was much less angsty and whiny in these episodes, which I appreciated.
He was a little bit more straightforward, yes. So we have Iona Davis reprising her role as Storm. She was Storm in the first season of X-Men the Animated Series, the best season. And then was later replaced, but she played Storm in that, and she also voiced the character in the X-Men Cartoon Maker video game. Now, in the comic, the X-Men play a much larger role, and I feel like some of what they have the Fantastic Four do, like kind of branch off on their own, the X-Men do in the comic, so maybe that's why. What I read was that for the Mutant Agenda episodes that we covered last time, they flew in the whole X-Men cast into L.A. where they were recording Spider-Man. Wow. And it was expensive, obviously.
Right.
And this time they were like,
do we really want to do
they're
that?
They're like, who's local? And she was. And so they were like, well, we'll just have Storm because she can just take a cab here and record the lines. So,
I mean, I guess I can understand that. It feels a little...
It's
cheap,
random.
quite literally, but
yeah, it is. Well, Spider-Man has that line where he's like, "There's an X-Man who's so powerful she could control the weather." I'm like, is that really the power? Like, Rogue's right there. Is that really the power that you want? Weather powers?
I did think that was an interesting choice.
So,
I mean, like, Storm is, she is very powerful and like she's very self-confident in a way that would impress her powers upon others. I feel, but
we're getting ahead of ourselves. But I feel like, had they not taken the whole Fantastic Four and they were pulling like select people from these teams, like you got some Avengers, some Fantastic Four, some X-Men, that would have felt a little bit more natural. But to have the entire Fantastic Four,
that's a lot.
And then just Storm.
I was a little surprised that it was like, the whole Fantastic Four were going for it.
Yeah, I'm like, really, you want the Thing for this? Okay, all right. But anyway, she's back voicing Storm, which is fun. We have the classic look of the costumes. When Spider-Man is going through selecting the X-Men, we get all the X-Men appearing on screen, which is sort of reminiscent of the closing credits back in the day. From the other cast, we have Quentin Flynn is reprising his role as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, from the earlier Fantastic Four series, but the other actors are not from that series. You have Robert Hayes, who's probably best known for his role in Airplane, reprises his role as Tony Stark from the Iron Man series. So it's kind of fun to be pulling in these voice actors from the other Marvel shows, bringing them in there. I thought that was pretty cool. We have Maxwell Caulfield back as Alistair Smythe, you may remember from our last episode. Here he is. And then we have Joan Lee, the wife of Stan Lee, as Madam Web. Here's a cool one. So David Hayter is a voice actor. He does Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid games. He also wrote the original X-Men movie. And was interviewed on this show by Hillary and Eric back in the day. That's
cool.
Yeah. And he's voicing Captain America here. So that was kind of a cool little X-Men connection there. We have Nichelle Nichols, Uhura of Star Trek fame, voicing Miriam in the... I don't know what was up with that little vampire section.
Oh my gosh.
Where it was like Blade and Morbius.
That was, I was like, am I watching a different show all of a sudden?
Like that was so weird to me.
It was just out of the blue.
Yes, and very strange. And they don't take Blade or Morbius. They take Black Cat, which is like...
She just like shows up at the end of the little vignette.
That was weird.
And then, but she gets poofed away.
And it doesn't really come into play in the episodes that follow this either. So I don't know if they're picking up threads from an earlier... They must be. But I was very thrown by that. I didn't understand that at all. Speaking of Black Cat, she is voiced by Jennifer Hale, and Jennifer Hale has a long history in animation. Notably, she voiced Jean Grey in the X-Men anime, as well as Wolverine in the X-Men and X-Men 97. She also voiced Rogue and Scarlet Witch in various video games, so a lot of X-Men voice work. We do have J.D. Hall as Blade, who also did voice work in the Incredible Hulk movie and Phantom 2024. I have almost no interaction with Blade. Like, I haven't seen the Wesley Snipes movies. I haven't read any of the comics. Do you even know who Blade is?
I know who Blade is.
Oh, good for you.
Well, I know the name Blade. I'm not sure if I know how he fits into the world.
So if the question was like, is Blade a Marvel character? Your answer would be
yes.
Oh, well, there you go.
See?
Okay.
That's all we need.
We have Earl Bone as the Red Skull. And the Beyonder, actually.
Oh.
He voiced Magneto in Pride of the X-Men and Colossus in the X-Men Legends game. It's interesting here because we just, in the final season of X-Men, which happened very recently, there was a Captain America Red Skull episode, but neither of those actors are reprising the role here. So, I don't know. I guess maybe it's just a geography thing like it is with Storm, We have Tom Kane as Dr. Doom. He voices Magneto in Wolverine and the X-Men and several video games. That's the cast.
Nice.
Let's jump right to how we feel about this, because I think that's going to be important for the conversation. We were pretty positive about Mutant Agenda last time.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I felt pretty good about
fun.
this.
Spider-Man was whiny, but that kind of added to the charm
he was
almost.
Whiny. Yeah. How did you feel about these episodes?
They were weird.
They're weird. Very weird.
They were weird.
Aren't they?
I had a good time, but I was like, what the heck is happening for most of it?
I think it was just one of those things where it was like, how they use the characters and like the powers that the characters sometimes had and seemingly sometimes didn't have. Like I felt like it was very inconsistent. And the Beyonders' whole plot of like, let's see what's better, good or evil.
It's very like
yeah,
abstract.
Yeah, it's a weird contrivance.
It's odd.
But here we are. All right, so let's dive into these episodes. We start with Madam Web, who pulls Spider-Man to this unknown part, and we see these creepy eyes, and it's the Beyonder, and he wants to use Spider-Man to test good and
versus evil, which will win.
Which is more powerful? Which is more...
Just which will win. I think that's all he said, and I was like, I mean, I think it really depends on this, like... Because it's not like, oh, which is... better or anything. It's like which, and it's like, well, I think it depends who has more resources.
Right, exactly.
Like,
yeah. It's not just the concept of good or the concept
and
of
it's not
evil.
like we're gonna put a good person and an evil person through the same test and see who like performs better or whatever. No, it's like they're gonna fight.
They're just gonna
It's gonna be a showdown.
Basically, what he does is he finds a perfectly peaceful planet and just wrecks it. And it's a lot of exposition. Also, early on,
it is. It's quite a bit of just like talking on this weird planet.
The Beyonder's going to tell you a tale.
With Madam Web and her creepy earrings.
Yes. So he pulls Doc Ock, Dr. Doom, Alistair Smythe, the Lizard, and the Red Skull, and puts them on this planet and is just like, have at it, fellas. Then we jump a full year. So we've had a year of evil run amok on this peaceful planet. And Spidey is sent there, and his goal is basically, or his mission as assigned by the Beyonder, is to restore balance to this peaceful planet. Make it peaceful once again. So he gives Spider-Man basically just a free pass. Get any hero that you want.
Up to a certain number. He's like, only a finite number of heroes.
There's a finite number.
So choose wisely. I also think it's wild that he's like, yeah, we're going to see who will win, good or evil, but we'll give evil a head start.
Yeah, we'll give them a year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not fair.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. So Spidey's first choice is the Fantastic Four.
Because he's like, Dr. Doom is here, so we need the Fantastic Four.
Right, I guess.
And I was like, you have a limited number of heroes to choose, right?
See, that's where I think if he would have just, like if it would have been the Fantastic Four and he just selected, say, Reed Richards or something like that. I think that would have been more interesting than just pulling the whole Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have the voice cast. You know what I mean? Like just, but I feel like maybe they felt like they could get away with not doing the Fantastic Four voice cast because that show wasn't as iconic as X-Men.
That might be
X-Men
true.
had just concluded and was in people's mind. Although this is the original Storm voice, not the Storm voice that just did the finale. So who knows? But for whatever reason, he chooses the Fantastic Four. Then he chooses Iron Man.
Probably a good pull.
Yeah. Then he chooses Captain America.
Because he's like, the Red Skull is here.
Yeah.
Only the Captain America can fight the Red Skull.
That's right. And then it's like, oh, I've only got one more slot. And he's like, the X-Men are cool. And he was like, let me see. And then it does. It cycles
shows
through
all the X-Men.
All the X-Men.
And he's realizing all the people that he could have picked if he hadn't picked all the Fantastic Four.
Right. It's not even like, give me an X-Men. He specifically chooses Storm.
He's like, let me think. Storm.
Yeah.
Although he doesn't seem to remember her name, actually.
That's
he's
true.
Just like,
He's
there's an X-Men who can...
weather-related X-Men, I believe. Yeah. So that's our team. And it's a weird team.
It is an odd team.
Yeah. So they all arrive, and it kind of becomes a fight right away.
Like instantly.
Like the good guys just
They're
start
like,
fighting
what are you
each
doing?
other.
Like, what? Where are we? I'm mad. And they start like totally going for it. And I'm like, is the Beyonder not watching, feeling very unimpressed right now? Like,
yeah,
I feel like that doesn't really come up.
Forget it. But then the Lizard just comes into this base that they're in. The Lizard just walks in and jumps on Spidey and starts attacking him. And it's like this roster of Marvel heroes just watches this unfold and does nothing.
They're like, surround him. And then they just like stand in this little circle around him.
I feel like Captain America and Iron Man and the Fantastic Four could probably subdue the Lizard pretty easily. But I guess not. They're taking a long time. They chase the Lizard out, but then they're attacked by these Dune-esque sandworms.
Yes, I saw those and I instantly was like, sandworms.
Yeah. So they are attacked by the worms. We get into a big worm fight. And this is where the Invisible Woman, she captures the Lizard and she shields the others, and they get back into the compound, and now she's like projecting her shield, her force field, around this compound with the heroes and the Lizard trapped inside. And the others are trying to figure out what to do about this. And Reed is able to like take the Lizard and turn him mentally back into Kirk Connors, but he
Right.
physically stays the Lizard.
Which is interesting.
Yes. And they decide, we're going to go ahead and form a team. Now, is this where they repower the base? Or is this,
yes.
Or does this come later?
Storm, because Sue is like, oh, I can't hold this for very long.
Right.
And they're like, oh, look, we see there's not enough energy. We'll make more energy and make our own force field.
Yes, and this is like a powerhouse moment for Storm. Like she flies up and does her big lightning from the sky, and zaps it and fills up the power meter, and they're able to turn back on this fortress, which the heroes decide was probably the last stronghold of whatever resistance was there before. But it loses power. So now they've repowered it. Everything's good. They're like, you know what? Let's form a team on this planet. I would probably be mad that Spider-Man disrupted my life for this.
Yeah, that's fair.
They seem
I feel like they are all a little ticked off, but they're also like, well, our special villain is here, so we have to fight him. It's like the Fantastic Four realize that Doom is here, and they're like, well, in that case.
I mean, obviously we have to. I do think it's funny that in this setting, they're not like, well, obviously Captain America should be in charge. Like it's still Peter, it's still Spider-Man who's in charge.
It is very interesting.
I mean, like Storm leads the X-Men. Captain America leads the Avengers.
And I think it's funny because the Beyonders like, we found you, a good man, to lead this team in the ultimate fight against evil. And I'm like, you pick this dude who has no leadership experience, okay?
Well, you remember how distrustful the X-Men are of Spider-Man and Mutant Agenda, too. But Storm, she
just kind of rolls with it. Yeah.
Bygones, yeah. So we jump into part 2, and it is a blind jump because we are in a weird vampire castle. We see Morbius.
It's like you skipped the previously on, and it's just like instant vampires.
Yes, it is. It is. So it's not the Jared Leto Morbius, thank goodness, but Morbius and Blade roll in this castle. They're chasing a vampire named Miriam, who is apparently Blade's mother. And this is where my complete lack of knowledge on Blade really is problematic. I need to phone a friend to get Eric on here because I don't understand this at all. But I guess she was Blade's mother who's been turned into a vampire and is now the leader of the vampires.
Yep. And he's like, you could still be good. And she's like, ha ha ha, I've accepted my evil fate.
And this goes nowhere. I just want to stress that to everybody. There's
it just
no
happened. Blade and Morbius get captured.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, this is real bad.
And then Black Cat shows up.
Out of nowhere.
Not a character I would associate with Blade or Morbius. So I don't know. Maybe
she just shows up to be the save the day kind of person.
And she's about to save them. And she gets sucked into the Secret Wars world. I think Reed figures out a way to get more people. Yeah. And they choose the Black Cat.
And nobody else.
So
just
strange.
only the Black Cat. They're like, we repowered it, but we'll just pick one more person. Yeah. That's all we need.
I mean, I guess because it's a Spider-Man show and Black Cat's a pretty big part of that. Having her there for the Spider-Man of it all does make sense.
And he even says oh, you understand me and how I think. I need you here. And she's real ticked off at him.
She's real mad. She's real mad. I think they could have made a better case than they did, but it's they didn't want to devote the time to it.
Mm-hmm.
The Fantastic Four kind of go off to find Doom, who set up his own thing. Storm, using her leadership abilities, flies out to find the rebels on the planet, and then she kind of forms a team with the rebels and is helping them. I don't even know what.
It's they're getting ready to try and topple Dr. Ock.
Yes, Doc Ock. And I think that she's trying to stop them until the rest of the heroes come, but they're gung-ho.
Yeah, it's very interesting because they're like, please, rebels, wait until we're there. Don't go. And they're like, you have 10 hours or whatever. And I'm like, why? What's the rush? Why do you instantly need to try and go after Doc Ock?
Yeah.
And
maybe their equipment's rented. You know what I mean? Maybe they don't
maybe. I also think it's funny how violent the rebels seem, given that it's a year ago this was a totally peaceful planet. And now they're like, chink chink, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got that taste for blood. Now that's all they want.
Yeah.
So anyway, the main group who's left, so not the Fantastic Four, who are off fighting Dr. Doom, or Storm, who's with the rebels, but everybody else decides to march on the Red Skull's castle. And obviously the villains are not getting along. They are all kind of they want their own little piece. They're sort of pretending like they're going to work together, but it doesn't really seem like they're going to. Then we get into this whole thing about how Black Cat and Captain America have this scene where it's we learn that Black Cat's father was hired to steal the
super serum for him.
Yeah, the super soldier serum that powered Captain America. He was supposed to like steal it for the Red Skull, and then like he doesn't, and then it's like a whole thing. And
He's
Cat,
like, "You're Nazis. I can't give this to you."
And the Black Cat ultimately is given the superhero
because someone like kidnaps
serum?
her dad.
Yeah,
and is it the Red Skull? I think maybe.
This was so weird
to
have
was very
this
confusing.
just as like a flashback in this story that's not about that at all.
No, it's just like a little.
Yeah, this did inspire me to like read into this a little bit more because I like Black Cat. I feel like I've read Black Cat in a lot of things. Same with Captain America, and I have never.
I thought it was kind of an interesting connection, but it was just like we're just gonna drop this in here.
The episode's not about Captain America, and it's not about the Black Cat, so it's just a weird.
It is odd.
But now I need to get to the bottom of that. I need to know if that's comic lore or if that's
totally made
where
up.
that came from because. It also doesn't really come into play, so I don't know why.
I feel like its only purpose is to show that there's a connection between Captain America and Black Cat, and they also like have a similar power set.
Yeah.
So that like, because they have this like flirtatious vibe going on.
Yeah.
Basically, to just make Spider-Man really jealous.
I guess.
Like that's the whole.
I guess so.
That's the whole point.
Okay. Well, whatever. Spider-Man has a diary. Also, he's keeping a diary.
He's like, I found this recorder and I will record everything so that these wars are not a secret.
That's right. Secret wars.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man is talking occasionally into a diary, though not as often as you'd think.
No.
There's not a lot of narration. They're trying to get to the castle is like a whole thing. It's like they can't fly. Spider-Man can't use his webs. They're just walking. Then they get there and Iron Man's suit runs out of power. And I guess I did watch this Iron Man show. I didn't remember the amount to which Tony is like incapacitated. Like he basically can't function without the suit.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And not just the heart thing. It's like he can't walk without the suit, you know, which, yeah, I don't remember. I didn't love that show. So maybe that's just out of my mind.
Fair enough.
But I think it's the Lizard who's going to find a workaround.
He manages to redirect power so that he can still fight and walk.
He bypasses any kind of flying power because that's what takes most of it and allows him to do the basics. So they're going to go into the castle. We cut back to Storm, who's kind of rallying the rebels again and trying to hold them at bay. It's like, the guys are almost here. And, she's kind of whipping them into shape. So, I like that they use Storm's like leadership because like that's such a cool thing about Storm in the comics and not as much in the shows, but in the comics, she's like right up there and often is just like the legit leader of the X-Men. So kind of cool to see that they're not only using her weather power, but like that part of the character too, which tends to be underdeveloped in the animated series.
It's revealed at some point that Doc Ock has come to join the Red Skull because Doom is like taking over his whole country that he's made.
Yes.
And so he's also in this
Latveria.
castle. Yeah, New Latveria.
Yeah.
So he's also in this castle with the Red Skull as all the like rebels and the heroes are closing in.
And Smythe is like, I'm over this. I don't want to do this anymore. So if the heroes are going to get us out of here, I'm team hero now.
He's like, whatever, I'm done.
Yeah, he's like, I don't care. I don't care. So now we're getting into it. And Storm brings a big wind. We get a big like classic Storm attack scene. She attacks these robots, and Spidey's working on something. He's trying to get things going.
Yeah, he's like trying to override the robot. Because I think Smythe is like, okay, well, the heroes are here. Fine. Like, I don't want to fight. I'll just turn off the robots. But then he realizes Doc Ock like modified them. So
there's some sort of...
So Spider-Man's like, I'll just hack it. Touches like 3 buttons on the screen and is like, all right.
He hacked it. Black Cat goes after Red Skull and is like, this is for my dad. And it's a little rumble. At the end of this episode, Black Cat and Spider-Man have a moment, and we get a kiss.
That's true.
We get a little
That's true.
romance.
Although earlier in this episode, because she's been like mad at him basically the whole time for bringing her here, and he has this moment where he's like, things have been tense between me and Black Cat. I guess I need to like initiate a conversation to try and work through things.
Yeah.
And then he just instantly goes up to her and goes, hey, Cat, you're not still mad at me, are you? And I'm like, that was your strategy? That was your one play?
That's how you heal a relationship. Yeah. Are you still mad about that? So romantic. Well, I do know in the show, there's a whole thing where Mary Jane, like Spider-Man and Mary Jane are like a thing, and she has been missing for a long time. And Spider-Man and Black Cat always have sort of like a wink-wink thing, and sometimes they're in a relationship, sometimes it's just like hella flirty. So I think, that's kind of coming out of that. But I liked the kiss. Yeah. I like those characters. Then we get a flashback on Earth, and Morbius and Blade have escaped. So great.
Right? Because the whole time Black Cat's like, I have to get back and save Morbius and Blade. Yeah. I know that this whole planet is at stake, but these 2 young heroes deserve my Deus Ex Machina moment.
Morbius and Blade. And that takes us to part 3, and we see the Fantastic Four again. And they have gone after Doom, so we're in New Latveria, and it's great. It's lovely. It's a nice little village. We get a robot attack, and the lizard turns back into the lizard.
Yeah.
Like mentally. Mm-hmm. We never really see him as Kirk Connors, but he loses control.
And they're like, oh, we better find Reed Richards and fix this.
Yeah.
And then they find him, and they just, like, don't fix that at all.
No, they don't. They don't really fix it. Fantastic Four get into a rumble, and then they're like, oh, it's Dr. Doom. And they realize the Thing is gone. Dr. Doom has taken the Thing. And we cut to Dr. Doom and the Thing. They're trying to figure out, like, what's going on, like, why they're here. Why does he want the Thing?
He, like, does the, like, elemental splitter or whatever and, like, makes it so the Thing can, like, turn into a human.
Right. He lets
or
the
into
thing
the Thing.
Turn back into
and
Ben
it's, like,
Grimm.
he has this whole scene where it's, like, the Thing is all, like, chained to the wall or whatever.
Right.
And he's like, I'm powering up my elemental splitter.
Yeah.
And it, like, seems like it's going to be, like, horrible and painful or whatever. And then it's like, oh, yeah, now he can
You're
just
fixed.
use his powers
and
at will.
Dr. Doom looks great. He uses it to change himself into a dish.
My other favorite line, the horrible acid burns that ruin your face.
Yeah.
They're gone.
That is a good line. That needs to be on a t-shirt. So I guess he's wanting them to, like, stay, right? He's like,
do you want to just, like, be,
make a go of
members
New
of my
Latveria? So
peaceful country?
I think maybe he takes the Thing because he rightly assumes that the Thing is the most pliable in that way.
It seems like it because
Like
the Thing is like, oh, you fixed me, like, all right, I'll be your...
I'll be on your team.
And it also seems like his goal, because they, like, talk about how Reed feels so guilty that he, it's like everyone else got cool powers and the Thing is just like this weird dude now. And so he's like trying to thumb his nose at Reed Richards and be like, I fixed your friend who you broke.
That is true. That is what happened. So when the Fantastic Four do show up, it's kind of like, hey, let's all just get along, and he tries to be all benevolent. Doom does. And then we have a robot attack. And this is where the Thing just, like, tells Dr. Doom everything.
Yeah.
He tells him about the Beyonder. He tells him, like, what the goal is, like, all that stuff. And Doom is like, excellent. So they head back to the original base, Doom and the Thing, back where the heroes were originally. And he uses the teleporter to get back to the realm where the Beyonder
is.
And Madame Web are.
It kind of seems like they're just, like, sitting on a moon next to this planet, just watching.
They're just hanging out. Yeah, they had a nice brunch, and now they're just watching. And he somehow takes the Beyonder. He, like, morphs.
He uses the elemental splitter to, like, steal the
Beyonder's
from the
powers.
Beyonder and put them in himself somehow.
Yes. Okay. Now we're back in New Latveria, and he brings Storm away from the rebels, brings Storms back to the base, pulls the rest of the heroes to Latveria, kicks the rest of the villains back to Earth. He's like, you guys are done. Get out of here. So now that Doom just has the heroes, he's like, all right, so let's just, like, all get on the same page. And
let's
just
be
make
friends.
this
And they're like, never.
And so he just exiles them.
He's just like, we'll stick you over there.
Yeah,
and then they're like, let's make a vote. Who thinks that we should try and take down Doom and who
Yeah.
thinks we shouldn't take down Doom? And then they're like, shh, if Doom hears us making this vote against him, he'll, like, retaliate against us. And then someone's like, what would he do? Drop a mountain on us? And then he literally instantly drops a mountain on them.
Yeah, but they're fine.
They're fine.
They really are okay.
They're just, like, holding it
Yeah,
up
they're
from
holding
it.
them out now.
It's very unclear how they solve that problem.
It really looks like it's a full smash. It looks
Right,
like
it's like a
just
flat
flattening-
mountain, and
yeah.
it just, like, lands on them. But
It's
then
one
they're
of those,
somehow
like-
inside.
It's one of those reels where things get smashed under compresses. That's what it looks like. You know? Spidey decides that he's got to take matters into his own hands. Like, he started this thing. He wants to draw out the Beyonder because he feels like the Beyonder still exists. Like he's in there somewhere. So back at the castle, monsters are coming out of Doom. Doom is like asleep.
He's like asleep
and all of these
and like
monsters
manifesting these monsters
flying out
from
of
his
him.
dreams.
Yes.
Are they like flying out of his mouth or something like that?
Yeah, and Spidey's like, look, you can't control this.
Right?
Like,
you shouldn't have taken these powers. You're just a dude.
You have these powers and you're sleeping and now your nightmares are like haunting us all.
And like Doom doesn't even
is
care.
not
He's like,
cool.
whatevs. Like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind if I populate this world with monsters from my nightmares.
Yes. But like they distract Doom and somehow they do separate the Beyonder.
The thing shoots him with the elemental
With the
splitter.
elemental, yes,
It's like
the
sitting
elemental-
by his like throne or whatever, and he like...
And it works. It works. And so now I guess that's it. This is the end of our
Yeah, once they split him back,
experiment.
they
Yeah.
don't have to like finish fighting him or whatever. The Beyonder's like, all right, you win.
This win.
That's it.
Did they
Yeah.
win though?
That's the thing. I was like, they still had to fight actual Doctor Doom even without his like Beyonder powers.
Right.
But I guess we just we don't
it's
care
like
about
the
that
Beyonder's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. The end.
Mm-hmm.
You win. He says that the heroes are going to be sent back with no memory of anything that happened. And I'm like, well, why do we do this then?
Spider-Man has his little recording.
Spider-Man has his recording. Yes, that's true.
We had to tie in and make that worthwhile.
Yes.
And the thing's like, does that mean I'll go back to how I was? And the Beyonder's just like, yeah, and I don't care.
Yeah. Sorry about it. So the heroes are kind of like saying their final goodbyes, and Storm gets the powerful, like, we are all heroes together speech, So it's kind of nice that she gets that final moment. The heroes go back, and the Beyonder's like, but I'm not done with you, Spider-Man.
This was all just a test. This was the beginning.
He's kind of like Star Trek's Q.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Star Trek's Q,
Not
Allie?
my fave.
Not
my fave.
Okay. All right. And that's it. And I did watch the final 2 episodes, and it really it gets very...
Does it tie in with whatever mission the Beyonder's going to send him on?
It's so weird. Like, Spider-Man goes and he gets in all these other worlds with all these different versions of Spider-Man.
Oh.
He goes into like kind of the real world and meets Stan Lee.
Oh,
like
my
the
gosh.
Actual Stan Lee. It's so bizarre. And it kind of ends with Madam Web being like, all right, you knucklehead, let's go find Mary Jane. The end.
Huh.
And it's just like, what the heck?
Huh.
Very weird.
That is weird.
I don't know. I love a good team up. I love a good, like, unusual team up here. And I feel like this was really bogged down by the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, well, especially because I feel like they just exile the Fantastic Four for most of it. It's like,
Right.
yeah, we're going to bring in the Fantastic Four, but they're going to be, like, off doing their own thing
Right.
for, like, 2 out of 3 of the
Yeah.
episodes.
Yeah. And
And Storm isn't around very much either. It's just, like,
No.
it's mainly, like, Iron Man, the Lizard, Black Cat, Captain America. And again, the whole time Spider-Man's like, I'm so jealous of Captain America. He has this connection with Black Cat. What was I thinking bringing her here?
Somewhere Morbius and Blade are fighting Blade's mom.
Yeah.
Also, which is, I guess, relevant to the story. I don't know, Allie. I liked Mutant Agenda. I did not like this.
I didn't necessarily think it was, like, great, but, like, I enjoyed it. I had a silly time.
You had a silly time.
I had a silly time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't... I feel like it's not good for anyone. You know what I mean? Like, it's not... I appreciate because, like, the Marvel animated universe as it was really kind of comes to an end with Spider-Man the Animated Series because they move in other directions after this. So I like that we're pulling cast members from the other animated shows. I think that's cool. But, like, for what is meant to be this team up of all these iconic characters, it's just very underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
I don't think any of the characters are even showcased well.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like, oh, look at all these cool moments for these characters, or like, it should be cool to see like Storm and the Invisible Woman, or like, Spider-Man and Captain America. Like, those things should be cool.
But I feel like, they don't interact very much.
No. And there's never like look at this unusual pairing. How are they going to fight? Or like, what are they going to bring out of each other? No. It doesn't really happen.
Yeah, well, I feel like if I was like, okay, I'm going to assemble like a team of iconic heroes for the Secret War, I'd probably keep Iron Man, Captain America, and Spider-Man, but I don't know if just about any of the others would be the ones that I would pick.
Yeah.
And if I was picking an X-Men, I don't know if I would pick Storm, which, I mean, we know that it's because of real world factors, but I don't know if Storm is the one I would go for.
No, I mean, I think the common sense would be just Wolverine, because they always choose Wolverine, but I feel like Rogue would have been a really
like Rogue would have been really
pull
cool
as well.
And I feel like her attitude in this whole situation would have been fantastic, because everyone else is being all like, I feel like she would have just taken it in stride and been like, all right.
Come on, sugar.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know what's funny? The cast member from Fantastic Four that reprised his role as the Human Torch, I don't think we talked about Johnny or the Human Torch even once in this whole discussion. I have no memories of the Human Torch doing
all
anything.
he does is light himself on fire and jump at people.
Right.
And he's like really, really trigger happy about it. Like he'll just, and he only has one line. It's like his little catchphrase of like,
flame on.
Yeah, flame on. I think that's all he says the whole time.
Okay. Because, I mean, Reed has his science-y moments. Sue does the whole thing with the fortress, which I did think, actually, that was maybe the most interesting use of powers. Mm-hmm. Like, her kind of, taking over in that moment is very cool. The Thing is basically just like I don't want to be a rock anymore kind of guy. Yeah, no, I mean, Iron Man, does he do anything cool? No?
I mean, I think the whole thing with
Iron
him,
Man
like,
runs out of batteries.
running out of batteries and having to deal with that is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, underwhelming. I'm underwhelmed.
I did think the Red Skull was fun. Both the animation of his face and his voice. It was just really good.
Yeah, a Red Skull.
I enjoyed that a lot.
Okay. Any standout moments for you?
I mean, just mostly those 2 hilarious lines. The horrible acid scars that ruined your face.
Would do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Cat, you're not still mad at me, are you?
Yeah.
Both times I had to pause and just laugh.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to venture into this little cul-de-sac of the X-Men animated world. And now I have finished both Spider-Man and X-Men, the animated series. So I righted a wrong that I don't know what happened. I just got away from them back in the 90s.
That happens.
You know?
It just slips away from you.
Yeah. But now I can cross those off my bucket list. And actually, there was a little short-lived Spider-Man show called Spider-Man Unlimited that was a result of the Tobey Maguire movies where they were like, you can make another Spider-Man show, but you can't use anything other than like the Spider-Man character. And you can't use the suit. So Spider-Man, yeah, I know. It's only 13 episodes and it ends on a cliffhanger, but I've never seen it before. And it's on Disney Plus, so I watched the first episode and I think I'm going to keep watching it. It's a weird thing. You know, it feels like the Ninja Turtles did this in later seasons where you're in the future and everything's different. And of course, there's like Batman Beyond, you know, is another situation kind of like that. So I don't know. That series is all set on an alternate Earth, so it explains why nothing is as you would expect it. When really it's just like a rights issue. So.
Right.
So yeah, those are the good things that came out of it. I finished it, and now I'm going to watch Spider-Man Unlimited. I have watched in its entirety X-Men 97.
Oh, nice.
So has Hillary.
I've heard good
has
things
Eric.
about it.
And next time, Eric and Hillary are going to begin X-Men 97. They're just going to do the premiere episode, To Me, My X-Men. So if you haven't watched that before, it's on Disney Plus. You got to watch it. I'm interested to see what they have to say about it because it is the show goes in unexpected directions. It goes harder, I think, than the original X-Men series goes. And it does feel like a good continuation sequel. I was more excited about starting it than I was expecting. And what about you on your journey? Do you see yourself watching more X-Men and or Spider-Man from the 90s?
I think I'll watch some more X-Men. I kind of took a break from it. I'm not really sure why. Maybe Gilmore Girls took over my life. That's why, I guess.
It's one or the other. You know, it's X-Men or Gilmore Girls.
They're basically the same.
Yeah, it's a classic.
It's a coin flip.
Yeah, it's a classic choice.
But I do intend to watch more X-Men, and then we'll see where I go from there.
Okay. And Allie and I just wrapped an episode over on our show, But Have You Tried, from the David A. Howe Public Library, where we're talking about Star Trek's original pilot, The Cage, just in time.
I didn't even know existed until
for
a month
Star
ago.
Trek Day.
So.
And now Allie knows about it and has seen it, and you can go hear our discussion to find out what she thinks and listen to all of our adventures over on But Have You Tried.
We have so many adventures.
All right.
Well, thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include This Endorian Life, 90s Music Got Me Like, and 9021 Here We Go. Follow us on Facebook and be sure to follow the network on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads for info on all our shows. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts.
See you later, everybody.
See ya!